You think compliance keeps you safe. You believe that if you stay agreeable, reasonable, and accommodating, people will treat you fairly. You think pressure works on everyone equally, so the smart move is to bend before you break. That belief is the reason you are still being controlled. Let me show you where this plays out. Your manager schedules a last-minute meeting on Friday afternoon and says it is urgent. Everyone else scrambles. You cancel your plans. You show up ready to fix the problem. The meeting could have been an email, but you proved something. You proved you respond to pressure. You proved your time bends when someone applies force. That was not respect. That was a compliance test, and you failed it. Or this. Your friend calls you angry because you didn't reply quickly enough. They say you are being distant, cold, and unsupportive. You apologize. You explained you were busy. You justify yourself. You try to make them feel better. You think that keeps the peace. But what actually happened is you accepted their emotional frame. You let them position themselves as the injured party and you as the one who has to fix it. You handed them authority. They pressured you. You folded. Now they know the formula. Or this. Someone in your circle makes a comment that subtly disrespects you. Everyone hears it. You laugh it off. You do not want to seem sensitive. You do not want to make it awkward. So you let it slide. You think that makes you the mature one. But what everyone saw was someone who accepts disrespect without consequence. You became safe to test. You became someone whose boundaries are negotiable. You think silence keeps the peace. It did not. It advertised weakness. You were not born this way. You were trained. You were trained to be helpful. You were taught to explain yourself. You were taught to care about how you are perceived. You were taught to believe that being difficult means being wrong. And that training turned you into someone who can be moved, someone who reacts, someone who bends when force is applied. Machiavelli understood this centuries ago. He said that men who are loved are controlled by obligation. Men who are feared are controlled by nothing. You have been spending your entire life trying to be loved, and that is why you are still being pressured. This video will show you how men who are never pressured think, move, and operate. You are going to see 5 psychological reversals that strip pressure of its power. These are not techniques. These are not tricks. These are realities that most men will never internalize because they feel too cold. But cold is what works. Comfort is what keeps you controlled. Most people will not finish this video. It will feel too harsh. It will feel like it is asking them to be cruel. It is not. It is asking them to stop being naive. If that makes you uncomfortable, you can leave now. But if you stay, you will understand why some men are never cornered, never guilt-tripped, never moved by tantrums or tactics. You will understand why they operate in a different psychological category, and you will see exactly where you have been handing your power away. Put your phone face down and listen. If this hit you, write, "I am the strategist" once in the comments, just to mark the day your mindset changed. Let me start with the most critical shift. Pressure only works when you accept the premise that you owe someone a response. Most men do not realize they are doing this. Someone raises their voice, someone makes a demand, someone acts hurt, and immediately the man reacts. He explains, he justifies. He tries to fix the emotional imbalance. He thinks that is maturity. It is not. It is compliance. The moment you react, you have accepted their frame. You have agreed that their emotional state is your responsibility. You have decided that their dissatisfaction is your problem. And once you accept that frame, you lose. Here is what that looks like. Someone texts you with urgency. They need something now. They make it sound like the world will collapse if you do not respond immediately. Most men respond immediately. They think that is being responsible. But what they actually did was train that person to use urgency as a control mechanism. The person learned that if they apply pressure, you move. If they escalate emotion, you comply. You are now manageable. You think you were being helpful. You were being trained. Men who are never pressured accept the request. They reject the frame. They do not argue. They do not explain why they are busy. They do not respond to someone else's timeline. They respond when they choose to respond. And that delay is not passive. It is active dominance. It communicates that your emotional state does not dictate my behavior. It communicates that urgency is not contagious. It communicates that I operate on my terms, not yours. That is not cruelty. That is boundary enforcement. And boundary enforcement feels like cruelty to people who are used to controlling you. Machiavelli said the prince must learn not to be good. That does not mean to be evil. It means stop letting goodness be used as a lever. Stop letting your desire to be seen as kind, reasonable, or helpful be what pulls people to move you. The men who are never pressured understand this. They are not trying to be liked in every interaction. They are trying to maintain the frame, and the frame is more valuable than approval. Here is the next shift. Most men think silence is a weakness. They believe that if they do not explain themselves, people will assume the worst. So they talk, they justify, they defend, they fill every gap with reasoning, and every word they say hands over more power. Because explaining yourself is a submissive posture, it signals that you believe the other person has the right to evaluate you. It signals that their judgment matters. It signals that you are trying to pass their test. And when you try to pass someone's test, you have already lost positioning. Let me show you what this looks like. Someone accuses you of something. It does not matter if it is true or not. Most men immediately defend themselves. They explain where they were. They explain what they meant. They explain why the accusation does not make sense. And the entire time, they are operating inside the accuser's frame. They have accepted the role of defendant. They are now trying to prove innocence to someone who positioned themselves as a judge. That is a frame loss, and frame loss is power loss. Men who are never pressured to defend, they do not explain. They let the accusation sit. They allow the silence do the work, because silence forces the other person to continue without validation. Silence makes the accusation feel heavier for the accuser, not the accused. Silence communicates that I do not recognize your authority to judge me. It communicates that your evaluation is irrelevant, and that flips the frame. Suddenly, the person who tried to pressure you is now the one who feels uncomfortable. They are the ones who have to fill the space. They are the ones who start explaining themselves. You did not argue. You did not fight. You just refused to play the game, and that refusal is dominance. Machiavelli understood that perception is reality. He said it is better to be feared than loved because fear is reliable and love is conditional. Most men spend their lives trying to be loved. They try to be understood. They try to be seen as reasonable, and that need makes them controllable. Because anyone who needs to be understood will eventually explain themselves into submission. Men who are never pressured do not need to be understood. They are comfortable being misunderstood. They are comfortable being misunderstood. They are comfortable being silent. They are comfortable letting people think whatever they want, because they know that explanation is a gift, not an obligation, and gifts are only given to people who have earned them. Here is another reversal. Most men think being available makes them valuable. They think responsiveness equals respect. So they answer every call. They reply to every message. They show up every time someone asks. They believe this builds trust. It does not. It builds expectations, and expectation turns into entitlement. The more available you are, the less valued your presence is. The more you give without hesitation, the less weight your attention carries. You think you are being a good friend, a good partner, a good employee. You are being taken for granted. Let me show you how this plays out. You are always the one who makes time. You are always the one who adjusts your schedule. You are always the one who shows up. And at first, people appreciate it, but over time, appreciation turns into assumption. They stop asking if you are free. They expect you to make it work. And if one day you cannot, they act offended. They act hurt. They make it seem like you let them down. But what actually happened is they stopped seeing your time as valuable because you stopped treating it as scarce. You made yourself abundant, and abundance has no value. Men who are never pressured understand scarcity. They are not always available. They do not always respond. They do not always make time, not because they are playing games, but because they understand that attention is currency, and currency loses value when too much is printed. They know that people respect what they cannot easily access. They know that absence creates weight, so they do not fill every silence. They do not attend every event. They do not respond to every message. And that distance is not coldness, it is value enforcement. Machiavelli said that men judge more by their eyes than by their hands. They see what you appear to be, not what you are. If you appear abundant, they treat you as disposable. If you appear scarce, they treat you as essential. Most men think being present makes them essential. It does not. It makes them furniture. Men who are never pressured are not furniture. They are events, and events do not happen every day. Here is the next one. Most men think setting boundaries means explaining why they are saying no. They believe they owe people a reason. So when they decline something, they give a full explanation. They apologize. They soften the rejection with justification. They think that is polite. It is not. It is a negotiation. The moment you explain why you are saying no, you have opened a door for someone to argue with your reason. You have turned your boundary into a debate. And debates can be won or lost. Boundaries cannot. Let me show you what this looks like. Someone asks you to do something you do not want to do. You say no, but then you explain. You say you are busy. You say you are tired. You say you have other commitments. And the person hears that explanation as a list of obstacles they can solve. They say it will not take long. They say you can do it later. They say your other commitment can wait. Now you are stuck because you gave them a reason and they are dismantling it. You are no longer defending a boundary. You are defending an excuse, and excuses can be challenged. Boundaries cannot. Men who are never pressured do not explain. They say no. They do not apologize. They do not justify. They do not soften it. They decline. And that lack of explanation is not rude. It is final. It communicates that this is not a negotiation. It communicates that I am not asking for permission to set this boundary. I am informing you that it exists. And when you do not give people a reason, they have nothing to argue with. They have nothing to dismantle. They are left with a clean rejection. And clean rejection is rare. Most people have never experienced it. So when they do not know how to respond. They accept it. Machiavelli said that the prince must be a fox and a lion. The fox recognizes traps. The lion scares off wolves. Most men are neither. They step into traps because they think explaining themselves is the same as being honest. And they get eaten by wolves because they believe aggression is a sign of immaturity. Men who are never pressured are both. They see the trap in every request for explanation, and they refuse to enter it. That refusal feels cold to people who are used to controlling you through guilt. But cold is not cruelty. Cold is clarity. Here is another one. Most men think anger is power. They believe raising their voice, getting aggressive, or showing frustration proves they cannot be pushed. It does not. It proves they were gone. Anger is a reaction, and reactions are evidence of a loss of control. When you react emotionally, you show that the other person got to you. You show that they moved you. You show that they dictated your emotional state. That is not dominance. That is puppetry. You think you are asserting yourself. You are proving you can be manipulated. Let me show you what this looks like. Someone disrespects you. You get angry. You confront them. You tell them they crossed a line. You make sure they know you are not someone to mess with. And you think that restored your power. It did not. It showed that disrespect affects you. It showed that their words have weight. It showed that you need them to know you are powerful, which means you are not. Because absolute power does not announce itself. Absolute power does not require validation. Real power is calm. Men who are never pressured do not react to disrespect with anger. They respond with distance. They do not argue. They do not defend. They remove access. They stop engaging. They stop being available. They stop giving attention. And that withdrawal is louder than any confrontation. Because confrontation says you hurt me and I need you to know it. Withdrawal says you are no longer worth my energy. Confrontation keeps the person in your world. Withdrawal removes them. And removal is the highest form of punishment. It is not loud, it is not emotional, it is just final. Machiavelli said that men should be either caressed or destroyed. Anything in between creates resentment. Most men live in the in-between. They get angry but do not remove the person. They confront but do not enforce consequences. They make noise but do not take action, and that makes them predictable. Men who are never pressured are not predictable. They are binary. You either have access or you do not. And once you lose it, you do not get it back. That is not cruelty, that is clarity. Here is the last shift. Most men think being reasonable makes them strong. They believe that if they stay calm, listen, and try to find a middle ground, people will respect them. They think compromise is maturity. It is not. Compromise is a tool, and tools are only helpful in the proper context. Most men compromise when they should be holding their ground. They compromise with people who have not earned it. They compromise because they think it keeps the peace. It does not. It signals that your position is negotiable, and anything negotiable will be tested. Let me show you what this looks like. Someone makes a demand. You disagree with it, but instead of refusing outright, you try to meet them halfway. You offer a compromise. You think that shows flexibility. It does not. It shows that you can be moved. And once someone knows you can be moved, they will keep applying pressure, because compromise is not the end of the negotiation. It is the beginning. The person takes your compromise and pushes further. They take you halfway and ask for 3/4, and you are stuck. Because you already agreed that your boundary is flexible. You already agreed to negotiate. Now you are just negotiating how much you will give up. Men who are never pressured do not compromise with people who have not earned it. They hold their position. They do not meet in the middle. They do not soften their stance to keep the peace. They state their terms and let the other person decide. And that is not rigidity, that is frame control. It communicates that I am not negotiating. I am informing you of what is acceptable to me. You can accept it or walk away. But I am not adjusting my reality to accommodate yours. That feels harsh to people who are used to controlling you through persistence. But harshness is not wrong. Harsh is honest. Machiavelli said that one should never allow chaos to develop, as this would lead to war. Because war will come anyway, and delaying it only strengthens your enemy. Most men avoid confrontation. They compromise to delay conflict. They think that buys them peace. It does not. It buys them time in a weaker position, because every compromise you make is territory you give up. And people who take territory never stop taking it. Men who are never pressured understand this. They do not delay the war. They fight it early. They do not compromise to avoid discomfort. They hold frames and let the discomfort fall on the other person. And that clarity, that refusal to bend, is what makes them unpressurable. Now let me show you what happens when you ignore all of this. Let me show you the cost. If you keep responding to every demand, you become predictable. If you keep explaining yourself, you become controllable. If you keep being available, you become disposable. If you keep compromising, you become negotiable. And once you are negotiable, you are not respected. You are managed. You will notice it first in small ways. People will stop asking if you are available. They will assume you are. People will stop considering your time valuable. They will assume you will make it work. People will stop seeing your boundaries as real. They will think you can be convinced. And slowly, you will become the person everyone calls when they need something, but no one calls when they are celebrating. You will become helpful, but not valued. You will become present, but not prioritized. You will become reliable, but not respected. And here is the worst part. You will not be able to point to a single moment when it happened, because it was not a single moment. It was 1,000 minor compliances. It was 1,000 small explanations. It was 1,000 small times you bent when you should have held. And all of those moments compounded into a reality where you are now the person people pressure because they know you will fold. But here is the reversal. The moment you stop being available, people start valuing your presence. The moment you stop explaining, people stop questioning you. The moment you stop reacting, people stop testing you. The moment you stop compromising, people start respecting your position. It is not magic, it is psychology. People appreciate what resists them. People value what is scarce. People fear what they cannot control. And fear is more potent than love. Machiavelli was not teaching cruelty, he was teaching realism. He was teaching that the world does not reward goodness. It rewards strength. It rewards clarity. It rewards men who cannot be moved. And if you want to stop being pressured, you have to stop being movable. You have to stop explaining. You have to stop being available. You have to stop compromising with people who have not earned it. You have to stop reacting. And you have to start operating from a place where your frame is non-negotiable. This is not a game. This is not a performance. This is a recalibration of how you are perceived. Because perception is reality, and right now you are perceived as someone who can be pressured. That is not because you are weak. It is because you have been playing by rules that do not serve you. You have been trying to be liked. You have been trying to be understood. You have been trying to keep the peace. And all that effort has kept you in control. So here is your challenge. The next time someone applies pressure, do not react, do not explain, do not justify. Just hold your position. Let the silence sit. Let them feel the weight of their own demand and watch what happens. They will either respect your boundary or reveal that they never respected you. Either way you win, because you stop being someone who can be moved. If you found value in this, share it with someone who needs to hear it. Subscribe if you want more realism. And if this hit you, write "I am the strategist" once in the comments, just to mark the day your mindset changed. You are not the person who bends anymore. You are the person who holds. You are not the person who explains anymore. You are the person who decides. You are not the person who reacts anymore. You are the person who controls. That is not cruelty. That is clarity. And clarity is power.